now. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce our speaker tonight. Comes to us from California. And I'm just anxious to hear Reggie speak tonight. I visited with him a little bit before the meeting. He sounds like a character. So bring it on, Reggie. Tell us about it. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you. My name is Reggie White, and I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Eric for inviting me out to share today, and I want to welcome anyone who's new to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. We didn't ask for newcomers, so I really don't know who I'm talking to yet today, but I'm going to assume there's somebody in here new in this meeting, and I want to welcome you to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, or if the case may be, welcome you back home and assure you that the program works and it works well. And what we are is a storytelling society, and we tell our story, and thank God we do that instead of finger pointing and tell. I don't want to sit here finger pointing telling you what you have to do. What I want to do is tell you how God worked in my life. What happened in my life take me from out there on the streets, doing what I was doing, to where I am right now, where I actually look like a civilized human being in this tie, right? Anyway, Eric was talking about how he's from Biloxi, Mississippi, and it took me back a little bit. I thought about my mom, who was raised in Cleveland, Mississippi, picking cotton out there and stuff. And she's 94 years old now. And I saw her earlier today, and we laughed and joked and had a good time. And my brother Ralph was taking her out to go get her nails done. And I'm sitting there being Leslie Strange, Ralph's girl. We're at the house and we're joking and kidding. And it's a long way from where I was 7 years ago. 7 years ago today, I was hopeless. Absolutely nobody I knew wanted to see me. They didn't want to see me coming. All they wanted to do was see me going. They had absolutely no thought that I could make it back to you guys. Everybody that I knew gave up on me. I was in that place where I was delusional. I remember thinking, I was at that point where I actually knew that I was delusional. I'm hearing these voices and I'm seeing, and every time I would step out of the house, that person, whoever was right outside the door talking with me, it hit the corner right before I could make it out the house. And I'm saying to myself, I'm losing my mind. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it back. And I was terrified. I was totally terrified. I remember I was at that point where I no longer had the ability to stop. I no longer had the ability to stop. And I mean from a dead stop. When I had absolutely nothing in my system, I could have periods. And the only time I was sober was when I was broke. And so I might have a week or two where I acted like a real human being, and I'm looking at TV with everybody else, and I'm sitting around and I'm reading books and I'm acting like I'm civilized. And then as soon as some money crossed my palms, I was drinking without my permission. Without my permission. And somehow I made it from there to here. And what I'm here to do is tell you my story of how that happened. Well, actually, I got to skip some because I just ran my mouth so much. But the main thing was you women, right? See, I grew up without my dad in the house. My dad was an alcoholic. He wasn't a mean drunk, tough drunk, abusive drunk. He was a cat who couldn't make it home paycheck, right? He was we thought he was a scary guy because all the kids in the neighborhood would talk about how he was drinking at the pool halls over the weekend and everybody was talking crazy. Anyway, he would come home. He couldn't make it home Friday with the paycheck. He'd come home Sunday or Monday. My mom would yell at him. He'd yell back at her. She would cry, and I hated him. And I said he was weak. And I said he was stupid. And I said I hated alcohol. I hated him. I wanted nothing. I said I will never, ever touch alcohol. And that was the way I grew up. My mom put him out when I was 7 years old, and I said he looked good going. And she raised us by herself, all 6 boys, by herself in Watts. The poorest part of Watts. We were like the poorest family of the poorest part of Watts, but we had hopes and goals and dreams. And my mom was the absolutely finest person that I knew. She was the smartest person I knew, the one with the most integrity. My mom, everybody respected my mom. No, almost everybody. I don't want to get into some of that stuff. But anyway, And I grew up with hopes and goals and dreams. And you knew me in school, student body president, shortstop on the baseball team. Had that really good looking girl on my arm all the time. Elementary school, junior high, and high school. But the problem was I lived on third base. I'm that guy who always had blue balls. I'm that guy who could never pull the trigger. Somehow you women were just a mystery to me, and I was terrified. And I'd do anything with my clothes on, but I just couldn't make that move. You guys probably were giving me hints and stuff. As a matter of fact, ladies, I really blame you. You have a different speaker here tonight if it wasn't for you, especially you, Laura. You just that type. And I came out that way, and I went to college that way. I went to college early. I barely made 17 years old. I was a really sharp guy, right? And I'm 17 years old, and I'm in school, and I'm having fun. I'm one of those rare guys who love school, right? And I'm in school, but I slipped up and admitted to my roommates. I told them, hey, look, I ain't got none yet. You know, I couldn't even let the word virgin slip out of my lips. But I said I hadn't got any yet. And they had a solution for it. They were my first sponsors. They said, Reggie, next time you get a girl in your room, here's what you do. What you do is you bring a really good bottle of alcohol, a nice bottle of wine. And you bring that bottle of wine, and as that wine goes down her throat, her legs open up, and you'll get exactly what you want. Their words, not mine, ladies. Don't look shocked. Don't look upset with me. I was just there. Anyway, so the very next weekend, I got this girl in my room. Not my girlfriend, but her boyfriend was going home for the weekend, so it was cool. And we're up in that room, and I have that bottle of wine, right? I bought as good a bottle of wine as I possibly could. Great year for that wine. It was called Spinata. Great bottle of wine. And I got this bottle of Spinata, and I got this girl, and she looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and we're both scared to death. And I had the courage to pour some drinks, and it worked exactly like the fellas told me it would. Wine went down her throat. You know what happened. And I got exactly what I wanted. From what I understand, she didn't get what she wanted because she was like, oh, you finished already? But anyway, that was then, that's not now. So don't trip. I'm not that way anymore. Anyway, but the problem was I had a drink too. And when I drank, something different happened to me. See, because I was real shy one-on-one with women, right? But not that night and not forevermore after that. When I'd have a drink, my mouth started going. I could talk. All of a sudden, man, I could talk to y'all then. You were in trouble. Then also, I could dance, right? And I couldn't dance before, but now I can dance. I can talk. And I got real close to cool. And I went through school like that. I was, even though I'd had hopes and goals and dreams before, I was going to be a millionaire by the time I was 30 to bring my mom out the ghetto. I was going to be an attorney. Me and my brothers, Ralph and Ronald, White Incorporated. But I had better goals and dreams. Now I was going to have to knock off the top 10 women in the school. You know, we had a list. Anyway, that's where I was. And I went through school being a really good student, top student in the school. I was on the track team and the baseball team. Came out of there. I forgot to apply to law school, forgot about being a millionaire, but I came out and got really good jobs, started making really good money. And me and my brothers were always partying together. Me and Ronald and me and Ralph, all our friends. We had big crews, and I had season tickets, three rows back under the basket during showtime for Magic Johnson. And oh man, life was really, really good. Until it wasn't. I started adding in some things I probably can't talk about in AA, and then my life turned around. I started losing things. I started losing license, insurance, and registration. I started losing cars. I started losing jobs. I started losing self-respect. I started losing bank accounts. Now I'm losing ID. And now I'm going to check cashing places. And I'm walking the streets at night. Then I started losing girlfriends. And that's when I said, wait a minute, this is getting too serious. And I said, I better regroup. And in 1984, I moved back to my mom's house. And by 1985, all 5 of my brothers, who are also high-achieving guys, moved back in my mom's house as well. And the 6 of us were drinking and using so hard, my mother had a nervous breakdown and almost died in 1985. She was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And by 1986, 2 of my brothers disappeared. I didn't know where they went. My brother Ronald disappeared, didn't know where he went, didn't care. Then my brother Ralph disappeared, didn't know where he went, didn't care. Then in December of 1986, I was standing on the corner of Hollywood and Pine waiting to make my normal trip into the valley. I'm waiting on a bus stop because I drank my car away. And I'm waiting on a bus stop, and a stranger walked up on me and said, let's do lunch. I looked at this guy. I'm like, what kind of dude is asking me to do lunch? It was my brother Ronald. And he looked so good, I didn't recognize him. His hair was combed. His eyes were clear. He smelled good. He looked good. His clothes were sharp. None of that was true the last time I had seen him 5 months before then. And we went to lunch. He paid for the bill with a huge wad of 20s, broke out a huge wad, peeled off a couple of them, paid the bill. And I looked at him and I said, dude, you look really good. What have you been doing with yourself? He said, I went to this place called the Salvation Army Harbor Lights. He said, it's downtown on Skid Row. He said, I no longer drink and I no longer use. If you ever want to stop doing what you're doing, I can get you in there too. And I looked at my brother and I thought to myself, man, you were scandalous out there. I don't want shit. You need that place. Can you loan me $40? He said, no. I said, you son of a, and I kept it pushing, but the seed had been planted. So 2 months later, February 7th, 1987, I'm in this girl's car. I've been in this car for 2 weeks. I had on a suit and tie, right? Like I was in the Pacific Group or something. I have on this suit and tie, but I had come from work that way. And I borrowed this girl's car, and I went to the city to buy some things and make it back to her, and I never made it back. And now I owe a whole bunch of other people money, really dangerous people. And I'm in this car, and I stink. I've not changed, showered, brushed my hair, combed my hair, brushed my teeth. I hadn't done anything. I was living in that car for 2 weeks, and it was bad. And I panicked, and I said, well, at least let me get the girl's car back to her. And I reached out to Ronald and Ralph. Couldn't find Ronald, but I reached Ralph, and he said he'll take the car back for me if I go in the Salvation Army place. After a little bit of discussion, I agreed to go into the Salvation Army Harbor Light Center. So on February 7th of 1987, I walked into that lobby of the Salvation Army Harbor Light Center, more dead than alive. They sent me upstairs and they told me that I would do this thing called detoxing. In reality, they said I would sleep for a week, which was fine with me. I hadn't slept for 2 weeks and I desperately needed it. They took that suit away from me and threw it away, gave me fresh clothes, and then they told me to go down to this thing called AA meeting after a week. And I went down after that week to that AA meeting, and I sat in the front row because they said sit in the front row because you were new, whatever new meant. I didn't know what that meant. But there was a guy standing at this podium, and he looked lame. He had on a suit and tie like I have on right now. Had a beard, white dude. I couldn't relate to him. He looked a lot like I look right now. And he's pounding on the podium, and he's saying, if you want what I have, you will get this Bible. It's up here on this podium. You will read it from the beginning. You'll get a sponsor, and your life can change. And I'm looking at this dude, and I'm thinking, man, I don't want nothing you got. Then I had a real big second thought. I thought to myself, wait a minute. This dude probably not spending the night here at the Harbor Light Center like I am. He probably has a car because he's not walking down Skid Row this time of night. And he may have a home that he's going to, and he might have a couple of girls up in that home and a job. See what I'm saying? So I thought maybe I want a little bit of what this guy's got. So I asked him to be my sponsor. He bought me that Bible, handed it to me, said, read it from the beginning and your life will change. And I looked at that Bible and it said Alcoholics Anonymous on the front of it. And I'm thinking, what kind of Bible is this? And I opened it up and it said, there is a solution. And I got my first message of hope. But I'm a smart guy, right? So went upstairs to read that whole book that night because they had said only 2 of you guys are going to get this thing. And I'm thinking, I don't know who the other one is. I don't even know what it is, but I'm going to get it. I'm going to be one of the two. So I went upstairs, opened that book up, and I started reading it. And I was going to read the entire book that night. But I got to the part in the doctor's opinion where it said the only hope for the chronic alcoholic is total abstinence. And you lost me right there. See, because you can't slide big words by me like abstinence. And total abstinence. I know what total abstinence is, right? And what part of the game is that? You know, why would anybody want to be totally abstinent? Man, wait a minute. See, I did a lot of things in life. I drank, I used, I did a whole lot of stuff, right? I used some of everything you could name, right? But I certainly didn't come in here for total abstinence. I thought you guys were going to teach me how to just drink some wine with my meal, maybe smoke a little bit of non-addictive marijuana. I thought you were going to teach me how to leave the hard stuff alone and teach me how to hold on to a job, pay my bills. You were going to teach me how to keep a car and keep license, insurance, and registration all at the same time. That juggling trick that you got to do. You know, instead, you talking total abstinence, and you lost me right there. But I didn't have anywhere to go. So I stayed. And then I went to this thing called a real AA. Now, on a Saturday, 30 days later, they gave us a pass. Me and my two biggest friends, because I don't travel alone, we went down to 9604 South Figueroa. That's an Alano Club in South Central Los Angeles. We walked in there for the noon meeting on Saturday and got hit with a wall of laughter when we opened the door. It was packed, jam-packed. There was a bunch of old-timers right here laughing and joking, and a bunch of guys, cool-looking guys, shaking hands and hugging and stuff. And then on the far end of the room, a bunch of really good-looking women, man. And we said, okay, maybe we can do this. And we walked in and we went to the only place there were open seats because we're still terrified, right? I'm terrified. And we went straight to the back, made a beeline to the back where it was the only seats. Later on, I found out they called it death row. And we're sitting on death row in these seats, right? And I look to my left, and there's the coffee pot, right? Big silver coffee pot. You know the big shiny silver one. And that one looked like it was glowing. And man, I wanted some of that coffee. And a plate, how high would cook, not the 99-cent store cheap stuff. It was like the Oreos, the good stuff. Man, I wanted some of those cookies. And I'm looking over there, right? But it was a whole gang of people over there by the coffee pot. It was like people laughing and joking. And then it was I standing behind the counter. And I'm thinking, what if I walk over there and I pour a cup of coffee and he asks me for water? See, I don't have it. And then what if I pick up a cookie and they ask me for a nickel? See, I don't have that either. See, the condition I came you guys in, I had absolutely nothing but that dirty, nasty, filthy suit that I had on. And they took that, threw it away from me. And I don't know how the old-timer figured out. This old-timer lady, and she was so sweet. I don't know how she figured out that I was new, or certainly how did she read my mind, right? And there was such a big crowd, and she walked through that whole crowd to the back of the room where we were, me and my two friends, and she leaned in real close because it was so loud in that room. And she said, baby, go over there and get you some of that coffee. Go over there and get you some of those cookies. Take all you want. It's free. And I fell in love with you guys because of the kindness of strangers. See, I didn't know what they were saying at the podium, mental obsession, physical allergy, all that stuff, all that crap they talking at the podium. But I knew kindness when I felt it, right? And that's what drew me into this fellowship before anything else. And then after the meeting, everybody's coming up to me and they're telling me to keep coming back, right? And they remember my name and they're shaking my hand. And man, I fell in love with you guys. I started volunteering for everything. I'm cleaning ashtrays, setting up meetings, mopping floors, and I'm volunteering to be secretary of meetings and all kind of things. Then eventually I'm going on panels, prisons. I'm taking panels downtown on Skid Row. I came to you on February 7th, 1987. By November of 1987, my two brothers, Ralph and Ronald, along with our good friend Strange, came up with the idea of the Never Too Early Big Book Workshop. It was 13 of us around my mom's dining room table that morning with our big books open when my mom got up to go to church that morning. And my mom almost cried. She was so happy that you had brought 3 of her sons back to her. And it was 13 of us that morning. In Zoom now on Sunday mornings, it's like 450 of us, right? And when we were live, it was 250 of us out in the room, the 300. And we started working the steps and said, and then December 25th of 1987, same year, my baby brother came to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so now I got 3 brothers with 36 and 37 years of sobriety right now in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I've been really good year in the White household. And then we started working the steps exactly as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We had gone to a Joe and Charlie workshop as a group, and we came back working the steps with a vengeance. And my life took off. And see, I come to you guys on a really high bottom anyway. I hadn't lost work history. I hadn't lost too much. And so my life got really good, really fast. I was able to find work really fast. I found a girlfriend really fast. She had a son. Of course, we moved in with each other in less than a month. So now I got a ready-made family. I'm a better dad than my dad has ever been already. On Thanksgiving, all the fellowship was invited over to my mom's house because so many of us are in the fellowship. If you were in AA, CA, whatever A you were in, if you wanted to, you didn't have anywhere to go on Thanksgiving, you came to the White House, and everybody was welcome. And Christmas and New Year's were great holidays because so much. I got a huge family, and life was really great. Then it got better. The richest man in California handpicked me to bring his company back from Atlanta to Los Angeles. Now, with less than 2 years sobriety, I'm making six figures. I have 6 departments, 250 employees, and I have a home in Atlanta, a home in West Hollywood. I'm flying back and forth. I got my family here in West Hollywood. I got my home in Atlanta, and I'm doing really, really great. And how could things get better? Well, a miracle happened. My girlfriend got pregnant. Why is that a miracle? Why I barebacked it all my life? Never used protection. I didn't think I could get anybody pregnant. But now my girlfriend got pregnant and I had my baby, Angela Marie White. And the best thing I've been from that day to this is a father here in Alcoholics Anonymous. And don't let the life that AA gave get in the way of your AA life. Don't let the life that AA gave you get in the way of your AA life. The Bill puts it differently. He says if an alcoholic fails to protect and enlarge his spiritual life through self-sacrifice and working with others, he won't be able to survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. And if he can, he'll drink. And if he drinks, he'll die. And all hope will be lost indeed. What did that look like in my life? Okay, now I'm living in 2 cities and I'm flying back and forth. I'm no longer going to Never Twirly Big Book Workshop. So I'm not working the steps every year like we had been doing. I'm not going to meetings because it's too inconvenient. I have shifts working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I'm too busy to go to meetings, right? I'm not calling my sponsor. I got a sponsor in name only, and this is going on for years. I hadn't talked to my sponsor. I don't have any sponsees. I'm not taking panels to prisons. I'm no longer going on panels downtown on Skid Row. I'm doing none of the things in Alcoholics Anonymous that have got me all the things that Alcoholics Anonymous have got me. Don't let the life that AA gave you get in the way of your AA life. And the trials came that Bill talked about. My little girl got sick. My wife thought she saw a seizure. Took her to Children's Hospital. A neurologist gave her a medication that was not supposed to be given to a child that young. And it started eating her kidneys up from the inside, eating her alive from the inside. We're back and forth for 4 months to that hospital, going back and forth, saying these are the side effects of the medication. You have to stop. You can't just stop a seizure medication. You have to switch it to another medication. And they wouldn't do it. We're begging them to. I had enough of that after 4 months. We said, let's take her to the most expensive, best hospital in LA. Took her to Cedars-Sinai. They took one look at her and they said, we have to intubate her. They put my baby in an induced coma for 3.5 weeks. All of AA gathered around, all the church people with my mom, all of our family. We were not alone 1 second in that 3.5 week period, and neither was my baby. People were with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I started praying again. See, I stopped praying too. I hadn't prayed in years, but I started praying, please, God, take my life, save my baby. Looked like my prayers were answered. Doctors came out, they said, we figured out what's wrong with your daughter. All we have to do is exploratory surgery. I said, do it. They opened her up. When they opened her up, they killed her. When they killed her, it felt like God left me. And I totally shut down. I never went back to that dream job one day after that. I never called in. I never went. Somehow they made it to the funeral. I don't know how. They kept paying me. I don't know why. I just totally shut down. I was just so angry. What I used to say is I relapsed because my daughter died. And that's not true. We know what to do here in Alcoholics Anonymous when we have tragedy. We go to more meat. We get at the podium and talk till they drag us off of it. What we do is we call our sponsor or we call sponsees. What we do is we get in the middle of the herd. What we do is we mop floors in the meetings and clean ashtrays. We sit in the middle of the herd till you guys can love us back to life. We lean into the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I could do nothing but lean back. I totally shut down. I couldn't hear you guys. Every single one of you did exactly what you were supposed to do. Everybody tried everything they could to get through to me and to my wife, and nobody could beat this. Shut down. I was just so angry all the time. All I could think is, fuck you, God. Why would you let my baby, what kind of God would let a little girl be tortured for 4 long months and then die a horrible death, and then let people just make a decision, a money decision, that he's worth more dead than alive, and I was just angry. I was so pissed off. I was just angry all the time. And I wrapped that anger around me like a warm blanket on a cold day, and I lasted 11 months like that. And then I went to a bar and I drank. And when I went to that bar and I drank, something happened. I realized how much of an alcoholic I was. See, I'd done so many outside things, I had forgotten how much of an alcoholic I was. And when I drank, when I first started back drinking at that bar, it immediately hit all the blackouts, all the bad behavior, all of everything came rushing back 100-fold. Like I had never stopped, except for more. And I only drank for 2 weeks, man, and it was horrible. And then she came to the bar. You know her, short skirt, long legs, low cut dress, booming up here, and beautiful face. And she tilted her head and gave me that look. Ladies, you know that look when you're giving it. And I tilted my head right back and gave her my 4-word interview. Do you get high? She said yes, and I was off and running doing what I really wanted to do and what I really knew I couldn't do. And I only did that for 2 weeks. And then it was the anniversary of my daughter's death. And then I needed to see God. I made a decision that God needs to talk to me. He needs to tell me, does he need more help down here? Does he need more angels? Why was he sleeping on the job? What would cause him to let my baby be tortured like that? And I wanted to be back with my daughter, which is the last place I had been happy. I took a bunch of pills and committed suicide. I was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital, and God wouldn't let me die. It pulled me back. And that was the second worst day of my life. When I came to and I thought I would be looking into the face of God, and instead I was looking in the face of my mom and my brothers and all the people that love me. And so now I'm ashamed and I'm humiliated. And I'm more pissed off than ever. And I'm pissed off at you guys. And I'm pissed off at me. And I'm pissed off at my mom. And now I don't have my sobriety like all my brothers have. And I don't have my baby. And I don't have, I'm sorry. I don't have anything. And I didn't have nothing left with that anger. And I was just so mad. And was I to know what the next 16 years were going to be like, I'd have tried to commit suicide all over. I couldn't hold my family together. I did everything. Matter of fact, I didn't even try. We tore each other apart. We just in anger, and we couldn't look at each other anymore. We lasted about 5 years torturing each other, and then we just scattered. And I remember wanting to get back to the fellowship. More specifically, I wanted to get back to Never Too Early, Big Book Workshop, which is my home. If there's anybody new in here, that's why we get a home. We always want to go where we know people love us. We want to go back to that home. I wanted to get back there, but I wanted, because my brothers were there, right? And they had all this time, and I had nothing. And I wanted to at least have a year so I could walk in there with my head up, with a little pride and integrity, right? And so what do you do if you're Reggie White and you want to get your pride and integrity back, coming back to AA? Well, you sneak to Alcoholics Anonymous. What do you mean sneak? How do you sneak? Well, I'm in West Hollywood. My people are in South Central LA. I don't know anybody at these meetings, so I go to meetings late after they ask the newcomers, so I don't have to stand up as new. I leave meetings early before they give out chips, so I don't have to take any chips. And so now I'm at meetings, but not in meetings, and I'm not interacting with it. I'm not getting the benefit of the fellowship, and I'm relapsing over and over and over again. And now I'm starting that recovery home path, and I'm doing that over and over and over again. I'm a real sharp guy, right? I thought about it. How did you get sober the first time, Reggie? You took the steps. In a vision for you, it says, though you be but one man with this book in your hand. We believe and we hope it contains all you need to be dead. Okay, I got a book. I've taken plenty of people through the steps. I'll take myself through the steps. So now, I'm at these strange meetings. I'm going in there. I'm taking myself through. I'm sponsoring myself and taking myself through the book. I do steps 1 through 3 and do a tremendous 4th step. Then find a stranger, do a great 5th step. And then I skip steps 12 and 13 and keep relapsing over and over and over again. And now I'm wondering what's wrong with me and can I ever get this thing? And that's when people start giving up on me, right? And then, but I'm away from everybody and I'm paying my own way. I'm working, I'm paying my own way. So I'm not hurting anybody but me. God got tired of that line. 2009, he gave me glaucoma. Now I have 0% vision in my right eye, 30% vision in my left. I can no longer drive. I could no longer work for anybody, and now I learned what it's like to be a low. Now I can't work. I'm on public assistance, getting about $199 a month plus food stamps. I'm supplementing that by selling plasma twice a week, and I'm walking the streets. Now I'm that guy that doing that zombie walk every day, the same as the day before. No hopes, no goals, no dreams. I'm walking those streets. That's when everybody gave up on me, including me. And then my mom, except for my mom, she thought that maybe there was something left in this pizza, man. See, a mother's only happy as their most unhappy child. And what she did is she took me in their home, right? She let me rent a room in her house. She didn't just let me live. She let me rent a room. Wouldn't look at me or talk to me, but she let me rent a room. And I ran roughshod and caused chaos in there. And that's when every single person, including her, gave up on me. And they're wanting to get me out. I remember when I surrendered. And I only know this looking in the rearview mirror. I was behind her garage. I had a bottle of Cisco and a broken crack pipe in my hand. Sorry about that, guys, but that's the truth. And I'm sitting back there, and the thought came to me that I can't do this anymore. Not that I can't drink or use anymore. The thought came that I'm not able to get myself sober. See, I hated God. I cursed God all that time. And I was trying to get back to you guys without God. Trying to get back without God. And the thought came to me that I can't do this. And I've tried every way I can. I've tried taking the steps. I've tried going to meetings. I've tried having friends. I've tried having a partner. I've tried doing everything I can to get back to you guys, and I can't do it. And I gave up. And I said, this is what I'm going to be the rest of my life. God won't let me die, and he won't let me get sober. Fuck God. And I said, fuck you guys too, and everything else. And I just totally gave up. And about a week later, God stepped in and he said, yeah, my so-called girlfriend my mother's car out of the garage. And my baby brother pushed through that room I was renting in my mom's house that morning. And he said, where's mom's car? And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, you have to leave my mother's house right now. And I made one right decision that day, guys. I made the decision to call that same rehab I've been to two times in a 5-year period. My sponsor, Rico Cruz, ran that rehab. And I called him. He said he had been waiting. He said he was happy and he was eager. Happy. 2 days later, I'm walking the grounds of that rehab with my head down. So I hadn't looked at you and I. And I'm walking with my head down, and Rico walked up on me. And he said, pick your head up. You don't have a right to walk with your head down. You're a child of God. He said, God wouldn't have put you through everything he put you through to leave you out here like this. And before I could stop myself, the words fled out of my mouth. I said, would you please take me down? And I finally asked another man for help for the first time in probably 20 years. And God started pouring grace right then and there. He gave me the gift of desperation, and he gave me another gift. He took away that feeling I always had about what you thought of me. I stopped. I didn't know that at the time. But looking in the rearview mirror, I could see that's where I stopped worrying. I was driven by what you thought of me, and I stopped thinking that right there. And all I did is I started helping my friend, helping every single person in that rehab with 2 days sobriety. All I did is start carrying whatever message I had to the people in there. And I started working those steps with Rico. At 3 months sobriety, I'm walking out of that rehab, and I'm on the third step, and God's still pouring grace on me. I walked right in the Never Too Early Big Book Workshop. More specifically, I had rented a room in San Pedro, and we're in LA, and I got up at 5:30 in the morning and got on that bus so that I could be there early to help them set up that meeting, and nobody knew I was coming. And I got in there, and we were on the third step prayer. And I was on the third step, God pouring grace. I'm still cursing God on a daily basis. I hated God on a daily basis. And something else happened that day. My friend Angel, see, my brother asked a friend of mine if he could just take me to a meeting that night because I can't drive because of my eyesight. And my friend took me to a meeting that night. And he had called me the next week. And when he took me home, he said, you want to go tomorrow night? I said, yes. And he kept asking me that every day for 2 weeks. Later on, 2 years later, he said, Reggie, I kept waiting for you to say no. He said, I kept waiting for you to say no. He said, my program, I had absolutely no program at that time. I stopped going to meetings and I hated Alcoholics Anonymous. And he said, you were so enthusiastic, I started loving the program again. So he was doing for me while I was doing for him. And you might have a different speaker here today if that man had not taken me to meetings for 2 great years up until the pandemic started. Another thing happened that day is we got on our knees, hands and knees, with holding hands with 250 to 300 of us. And never too early big workshop doing the 3rd step prayer, me to a God that I had no belief in doing. And I believe you guys. I believe you believe. I'll just and then we got to the 4th. And when we got to the 4th step, my brother Ralph talks about this, about us having, when you have totally justified anger, you've been raped as a child or molested as an adult, or if your baby 4 years old has been tortured and murdered for money. Basically, it was a money decision. They did that. They didn't let my baby live. And and tortured and killed, and I kind of lose it every now and then. Sometime I'm back there. Anyway, what we say is, do you want to be right? Or do you want to be right? Or do you want to be free? And I chose freedom this time, and I put God on the 4th step. And when I put God on the 4th step, things have changed. I realized God wasn't the one that gave my little bad medication house doctors at Children's Hospital. I realized God wasn't the one that made the decision for my baby to die. That was the doctors at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. Okay, wait a minute. I prayed, God, take my life, save my daughter. When did God start rooting for me instead of me rooting for God? And then there was a big thing. The fact that God only let me have my baby for 4.5 years, and that's such a big hurdle to get past. Why would he allow her to be ripped from my life like that? When I look at the world differently, the world looks back differently at me. And the way I prefer to look at it is this, that God held Angela Marie White in his arms before he put her on this earth. And he said, baby, what I'm going to do to you is I'm going to give you, he said, you are going to be tortured for 4 long months, and you're going to die a horrible death. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you to a man that's going to love you every single day in your life. I'm going to give you to the best father in the world. He gave her to me, my miracle baby, the baby that I didn't think I could have. And the way I prefer to look at it is this, not that God only let me have her for 4.5 years, but that God allowed me to be a father for 4.5. And then with my mom, who was 94 years old and who I went down there and saw the day after I went and got a haircut. I got that haircut for you guys. I hope it looks good. But anyway, my mom is 94 years old and she still got all of it together, was going out to get her nails done today. My brother Ralph stayed to get her nails done. And thank God that God has allowed my mother to still be alive right now. On February 1st of this year, she turned 94. And I've had an opportunity to not only make amends, but to continue living amends. Because if there's any new friends in here, see, what I always thought is, why can't she tell that I'm well? But what I came to realize is just because I'm well doesn't mean she's well. I made her sick. And it took her, even though she was the last one to give up on me, it took her about 3 years before she really believed I was all the way back. And she had confidence in that. And at my 4th birthday, she put in my card, you were the center of my youth. And that just meant everything. That doesn't happen to guys like me. And finally, I always said that I wasn't hurting anybody but myself. That's my mantra. That's what I lived by that whole time I was out there. I'm paying my own way. I'm working. And then my mom, at about 2 years, when I made it back about 2 years, she told me about my niece. She said, you owe your niece an amends. My mom knows too much about this program. She said, you owe your niece an amends because she paid for that car when it was stolen out the driveway. She paid $480 to get it out of them. And I'm like, why would you wait 2 years to tell me this? And I hurried up and called my niece and said, niece, I need to make this amends to you. And my niece said she didn't want my money. She said, Uncle, I'm just so happy that you're back. I just love when I'm so happy you're back. I don't want your money. And I said, if I don't pay you this money today, I might be drunk tomorrow. And hurried up with the money. I asked that question that he asked. I said, is there any other way that I've harmed you? And she said, yes. She surprised me. She said, Uncle, she said, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, and every New, when Angie was a little girl, Bob, I'm speaking in here. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. When Angie was a little girl, she said, she was raised with my daughter, and she said every Christmas, New Year, and Thanksgiving, I used to take all the kids and spread them out on my lap and spread them out on the couch and spread them out on the floor, and I used to tell stories. I used to tell all these wild tales about my adventures when I was their age, when I was a really little boy, and I had adventures with Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and Easter Bunny, and we would fly all over the world. And we had all these great adventures. She said, Uncle, I wanted you to tell those stories to my kids. And Uncle, I wanted you to tell those stories to my grandkids. That Uncle, you would be in this room, you'd be so close, the door was so close to me, I could touch it. And I would be praying that you would come out. I love you. I love you. I pray that you walk out just like you used to be. Hug me and tell me I love you. And thanks to you here in Alcoholics Anonymous, my niece has her uncle back. And thanks to you here in Alcoholics Anonymous, my mom has her son back and my brothers have their brother. Thanks to you here in Alcoholics Anonymous, I have an opportunity, one day at a time, to repay just a little bit of what's so freely given me. What I do today to try to repay that is I try to work with them. What I do today is I found that after that man stopped taking me to those meetings because of the pandemic, that's what the only reason we stopped going. We were going all over LA to those meetings, and I panicked. I went 2 weeks without meetings, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I found that for a guy like me, I have to continually try to pay back. And thank God I was down at my mom's house, and Chris Bentley called my brother Ralph, and she said there's this thing that came out that calls. He talked about the fact that she said she had a Zoom room, and she was willing to let Never Too Early Big Book Workshop use her Zoom room, and she was willing to be the host of them. And so we were able to start at Never Too Early Big Book Workshop. And then we said, well, how are we going to let people know? And I said, I'll do it. And then I said, how are people going to know where to go to meet? And I took that on as my responsibility. I took that on as my privilege, to be able to tell people, be able to send meetings out on a daily basis. And I've been able to do that from that day to this day. And it's spread, and it's spread. And I'm sending meetings out all over the world. And thanks to you guys, I've led a charmed life now. I went through so much before that I think that God is saying I've suffered enough. And it's been like, since I've made it back home to you guys, I've never worried about me one single day. I've only worried about you guys. And God has been able to sneak in behind my back while my back was turned and while my hands were out of the pot. And he's able to make miracles in my life. And I've had nothing but a smooth sail. Now, some people might say, oh, you jinxing and stuff. I don't believe in jinxes. I believe in this power. I believe in this power, and I believe in doing the right thing, and I believe in helping others. Anyway, I just saw I had a couple of minutes, and I never get to talk about that. Eric, I want to thank you so much for inviting me out. My name's Reggie White. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for allowing me to share.